Creatine's unfortunate side effect most people ignore. Creatine is one of the most researched supplements in the world. It's cheap, effective, and used by everyone from gym beginners to professional athletes. On paper, it looks almost perfect. But here's the uncomfortable truth. While creatine helps performance, there's an unfortunate side effect most people completely ignore. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's subtle. And by the time people notice it, confusion and frustration have already set in. Most issues with creatine don't come from the supplement itself. They come from misunderstanding how it works, what changes to expect, and what habits need to support it. Water weight gets mistaken for fat. Slow results get mistaken for failure. Increased strength gets mistaken for being ready for more. That's why so many people quit too early or use creatine the wrong way. In this video, we're breaking down 8 overlooked effects of creatine you should know about before blindly scooping another serving. Understand these, and creatine becomes a simple, powerful tool. Ignore them, and even the best supplement can feel like a problem instead of a solution. But before we begin, drop your name and the city you're watching from in the comments below. Alright, let's get started. Number 1, that healthy weight gain isn't always muscle. Here's something no one tells you up front. Not all creatine weight gain is muscle, and that's where confusion begins. Creatine pulls water into your muscle cells, which can make the scale jump surprisingly fast. Within the first 1 or 2 weeks, many people see the number go up and assume they've gained muscle, or worse, fat. In reality, that early weight change is mostly water. Muscles may look fuller and feel firmer, but that doesn't mean new muscle tissue has already been built. True muscle growth takes time, training, and adequate nutrition. Creatine supports that process, but it doesn't shortcut biology. The problem shows up when expectations don't match reality. Some people see the scale rise and think they're making rapid progress, even if their training or nutrition hasn't improved. Others panic, assuming creatine is sabotaging fat loss. Both reactions come from misunderstanding what the weight actually represents. Water retention isn't bad. In fact, hydrated muscle cells function better, recover faster, and tolerate training stress more effectively. But when water weight gets confused with real body composition changes, motivation can suffer. Fat loss goals feel stalled, progress feels unclear, and people start second-guessing their plan. This is especially tricky if fat loss is your main goal. The scale alone becomes a poor measurement tool during the early stages of creatine use. Strength, performance, measurements, and consistency matter more than a short-term number change. Creatine isn't lying to you. The scale just isn't telling the whole story. Understanding the difference between water weight and real progress keeps expectations realistic and motivation intact. Number 2, digestive issues aren't rare, they're ignored. Ever felt bloated, crampy, or just uncomfortable after taking creatine? You're definitely not alone. Digestive issues are one of the most common complaints people have, and they're also one of the most misunderstood. In most cases, the problem isn't creatine itself, it's how people use it. Large doses, aggressive loading phases, or low-quality creatine can overwhelm the digestive system. Your gut has limits, and when those limits are pushed, discomfort is the result. Bloating, cramps, nausea, or sudden bathroom urgency aren't signs that creatine is bad. They're signs your body is pushing back. Poor quality supplements make this worse. Impurities, fillers, or poorly manufactured creatine can irritate the stomach and intestines, especially in sensitive users. That's why reputable, third-party tested creatine monohydrate matters more than flashy labels or exotic blends. Another mistake is taking too much at once. Your muscles can only absorb so much creatine at a time, but your gut still has to process the entire dose. Smaller daily servings are easier to digest and work just as well long-term. Your gut is honest. Discomfort isn't something to push through. It's feedback. Listening to it, lowering the dose, improving quality, or spreading intake usually solves the issue quickly. When creatine is used thoughtfully, digestive problems are rare. Most stomach issues aren't side effects of creatine. They're side effects of ignoring how your body responds. Number 3, dehydration sneaks up faster than you think. Creatine shifts water inside your muscles, and that water has to come from somewhere. When creatine pulls fluid into muscle cells, it improves strength, recovery, and muscle function. But if your overall fluid intake stays the same, dehydration can creep in quietly without obvious warning signs. This is where many people get confused. Dry mouth, lingering headaches, fatigue, dizziness, or muscle cramps start showing up. Because these symptoms often appear around workouts, they get blamed on training intensity, age, or the supplement itself. In reality, hydration is the missing piece. Creatine doesn't dehydrate you. It doesn't pull water out of your body. It redistributes water inside it. When hydration is adequate, this shift is beneficial. When it's not, the body struggles to maintain blood volume, circulation, and muscle contraction efficiency. The result feels like a side effect, even though it's simply low fluid intake. This becomes more noticeable if you train, sweat more, drink a lot of caffeine, or live in a hot climate. One glass of water around your workout isn't enough. Hydration needs to be consistent throughout the day, not reactive. The fix is simple, but often overlooked. Drink more fluids regularly. Pay attention to urine color, thirst, and how your body feels during movement. When hydration matches creatine use, those uncomfortable symptoms usually fade quickly. Once fluid intake is dialed in, creatine feels smoother, recovery improves, and performance becomes more consistent. In most cases, the problem isn't training or creatine, it's water. Number 4. Your cardio performance might take a hit. Creatine shines in short, explosive movements, but endurance is a different story, and this catches a lot of people off guard. Creatine is best known for supporting quick bursts of energy, like lifting, sprinting, or standing up with power. That's where it does its best work. Cardio-heavy activities, however, can feel a little different at first. Some users notice they feel slightly heavier, slower, or more out of breath during endurance work. Running may feel less efficient. Cycling cadence might feel off. Even steady-state cardio can feel harder than expected. This usually isn't a sign that creatine is hurting your fitness. It's a temporary adaptation issue. Part of this comes from extra water stored inside muscle cells. That added weight is small, but endurance activities are sensitive to efficiency. A pound or two of extra mass can be noticeable when you're moving your body repeatedly over long periods. Muscle fullness can also subtly change how movement feels, especially early on. Another factor is energy prioritization. Creatine primarily supports the phosphocreatine system, which fuels short, intense efforts. Endurance relies more on aerobic energy systems. Early in supplementation, the benefits don't always translate directly to long-duration cardio. For most people, this effect fades as the body adapts. Movement efficiency returns, and endurance feels normal again. Many people even find that better recovery and strength eventually support their cardio indirectly. The mistake is assuming creatine is bad for endurance and quitting immediately. If endurance is your main focus, patience matters. Creatine doesn't eliminate cardio ability, it just shifts how your body feels during the adjustment period. Number 5. It can mask overtraining signals. This is one of the most overlooked side effects of creatine, and it has nothing to do with bloating or water weight. Creatine helps you push harder and recover faster between efforts. That sounds like a pure win until you realize it can also blur your body's natural fatigue signals. When energy availability is higher, workouts feel easier. You don't feel as tired between sets, and daily movement feels smoother. Because of that, it becomes easier to ignore subtle warning signs. Joint stiffness, tendon tightness, lingering soreness, or nervous system fatigue don't always stop you from performing. They just whisper instead of shout. The problem isn't creatine. It's how people respond to feeling capable. You might add extra sets, train more days in a row, or shorten rest periods without realizing the total stress is climbing. Performance stays up, so it feels justified until something finally pushes back. Joints, tendons, and connective tissue adapt more slowly than muscles. The nervous system also needs recovery that isn't always obvious in the moment. Creatine doesn't remove the need for rest, it just makes it easier to override it temporarily. This is why overuse injuries often show up weeks later, not immediately. By the time pain appears, the warning signs were missed. The smart approach is awareness, warm-ups still matter, and recovery days still matter. Paying attention to how joints and connective tissue feel matters more than how strong you feel that day. Creatine is a powerful support tool, but it doesn't replace listening to your body. If anything, it makes that skill more important. Number 6, dependency becomes psychological, not physical. Creatine isn't addictive, but the mindset around it can be, and that's an effect almost nobody talks about. Creatine doesn't create dependence in the body. There's no withdrawal, no hormonal crash, and no damage when you stop. Your muscles simply return to their normal creatine levels over time. The issue shows up in how people interpret changes. When creatine use stops, water stored inside muscle cells gradually leaves. Muscles may look a little flatter or feel less pumped. Strength, in short, explosive movements may feel slightly less assisted. These are normal, temporary adjustments, not muscle loss. But when people don't understand this, anxiety creeps in. Normal water loss gets labeled as muscle wasting. Slight changes in performance feel like decline, and confidence drops, even though the body itself is fine. Over time, some people start believing they can't train, perform, or maintain muscle without creatine. That belief becomes the real problem. Training motivation dips, and every workout feels worse simply because expectations changed. This mindset can quietly reduce consistency, which actually does lead to real losses, not from stopping creatine, but from training less effectively because of fear. Creatine should be viewed as a tool, not a requirement. It enhances good habits, but it doesn't create them. Strength, muscle, and performance come from training, nutrition, sleep, and consistency. Creatine simply supports that process. Understanding this removes the anxiety. You're not fragile without creatine, you're just less assisted. When expectations are realistic, creatine stays what it should be: helpful, optional, and empowering, not something you feel dependent on. Number 7, sleep disruption in sensitive users. Here's one most people never connect, and it quietly undermines everything creatine is supposed to help with. Creatine supports cellular energy production, not just in muscles, but throughout the body. For most people, that's a good thing, but for some, especially when creatine is taken late in the day, it can subtly interfere with sleep quality. Creatine isn't a stimulant like caffeine, but increased cellular energy can make it harder to fully wind down. Some people notice they fall asleep more slowly, sleep more lightly, or wake up feeling less refreshed. Because the effect is subtle, it often goes unnoticed or gets blamed on stress, age, or training intensity instead. Poor sleep creates a cascade of problems. Recovery slows. Hormones involved in muscle repair and energy regulation get disrupted. Fatigue builds up. Suddenly workouts feel worse. Soreness lasts longer, and motivation drops, all while creatine is still being taken. At that point, the supplement gets blamed for not working, even though the real issue is sleep quality. This is especially important because recovery is where progress actually happens. Creatine can support training, but it can't override poor sleep. If sleep suffers, the entire benefit chain breaks down. The solution is simple: timing awareness. Taking creatine earlier in the day, with breakfast or pre-workout, avoids this issue for most people. For sensitive sleepers, even small timing changes can make a noticeable difference. Creatine works best when it supports recovery, not when it quietly disrupts it. Paying attention to sleep turns this overlooked side effect from a problem into an easy fix. Number 8, it can distract you from what actually matters. This is the real unfortunate side effect, and it has nothing to do with water weight, digestion, or blood tests. Creatine works, that's not up for debate, but it's not magic, and treating it like a solution instead of a support tool is where things go wrong. Many people start relying on creatine while quietly ignoring the basics. Sleep gets cut short, nutrition is inconsistent, mobility work is skipped, and training becomes sporadic. Because creatine helps mask fatigue and improves short-term performance, those gaps don't show up right away. Everything feels fine until it isn't. When progress eventually stalls, frustration sets in. Strength plateaus, recovery feels slower, and energy drops. Instead of looking at habits, people blame the supplement. Creatine gets labeled as overhyped or not working anymore, when in reality, it's doing exactly what it can with a weak foundation. Supplements don't create results. They amplify what's already there. Good habits get slightly better. Bad habits become more obvious over time. Creatine can support training, but it can't replace sleep. It can help muscles recover, but it can't fix poor nutrition. It can make workouts feel easier, but it can't create consistency for you. This misunderstanding is why experiences with creatine vary so much. Two people can take the same dose and get completely different results. Not because of the supplement, but because of their lifestyles. When the basics are in place, creatine feels almost effortless. When they aren't, it becomes a convenient scapegoat. Understanding this turns creatine from a disappointment into the powerful, reliable tool it's meant to be. So, creatine isn't dangerous, and it's not bad. But ignoring its side effects is the real mistake. Supplements are tools, not shortcuts. And creatine works best when you understand what it's doing to your body, not when you blindly follow trends. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you noticed any of these effects while using creatine, or are you considering stopping it? Drop your experience in the comments, and if this video helped you think differently about supplements, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's scooping without questioning. Because smarter fitness always beats harder fitness.